over 7.5 billion people in the world today. And I should know, many of them look just like me. Indian. And that's not the part that concerns me. The part that concerns me is that 1.4 billion of them live on less than $1.25 a day. Imagine that for a moment. And the numbers just get more shocking. An additional 1.74 billion people live on in between $1.25 to $2.50 a day. Just total that. 41.8% of our world population wakes up every morning unsure of where they're going to get their meal or if they'll have a meal. Now, these individuals, they're not people who live in a far-off place, people who will never have to see. This isn't something we can avoid or ignore. They live right under our noses. I want to introduce you to this wonderful child who comes to one of our schools, Kunal. And I'll tell you more about him and our school later. When I met Kunal, this is a pretty good representation of where he lived. This would be his community. Now, during this time, I was living in Mumbai, India, and this is where I lived. Both of these neighborhoods were exactly 3 minutes away from each other, walking. Kunal was actually my neighbor. So let's come back to this 41.8%. Just to give you a bit of a selfish reason why this is such a big problem. A motive that proves to you that we really need to fix this. If you could all help me and raise your left hand in the air real quick. Just raise your left hand in the air. And do me a favor and just place it behind your back right now. Now, for the rest of the day today, I would like for you to process the rest of your day without using your left arm. Only with your right. Answer a phone call, cooking, driving, whatever it is. Do it with only your right. I'm getting a lot of reactions right now, and I can see people that are frightened by that. Surely you'd be half as efficient, things would be twice as hard. But that's how we live. As a human society, nearly half of our population is not contributing to innovation, to technological advances, to mathematics. Nearly half. All right, so I just told you we have a lot of poor people in this world, and that's bad, right? Great, wonderful 3 minutes. Thank you very much. And I can hear you thinking, seriously? I have a solution. I have a proposal. And I also have some data that you probably don't know. What you might not know is that in the history of the human society, we are the most generous, the most charitable than we've ever been before. Last year, it's estimated that worldwide we collected over $500 billion in charitable donations. $500 billion. It's a big, big number. So we have this mentality of giving. And sometimes I wonder whether we really give for what the real cause is, or whether we give to just make ourselves feel a little bit better. Because what do we really do? We give some money to an organization, and we trust that that organization will take care of the hard work. They'll send the money off. They'll make sure food, shelter, water, everything's provided. And we can rest the rest of the day. We felt good. We wrote that check. We stuffed that cash into that box. We did good. Let me ask you a question, though. When is the last time? Raise your hand if you ever went back and checked into whether what your money did. Actually asked, hey, that donation I made, what did it do? I literally saw 2 hands in this entire audience. Now, imagine if you were giving someone money to start a business, private sector. How many times would you check in to see how your money is doing? Pretty interesting. So that leads me to asking the question, are we actually solving the problem? How many of us actually ask, are we winning in that fight against poverty? Are we solving the problem? Now, we don't have to think about this. Luckily, we have mathematics. We can turn to numbers. Numbers never lie. And we can see, are we solving the problem? So, 1.4 billion people live on $1.25 a day. 1.74 billion people live on about $2.50 a day. It's reported that $10, it's what's needed to get out of poverty, to be at the early stages of middle class, to be able to give yourself opportunities in the world. $10 a day. So let's give our way to curing world poverty. Let's do it right now. So we take that $10, subtract $1.25, and 1.4 billion people would require $8.75 a day that we would just give them so that they could be up at $10. Multiply that math, that comes out to $12.25 billion a day per day giving over and over to just that one segment. Let's move on to the next segment. $10 minus $2.50 leaves us at $7.50 times the 1.74 billion. We arrive at $13 billion a day. Total that up, and we have a staggering number, $25.25 billion a day that we have to give in order to cure world poverty. Now, for a moment, what does that mean annually? What does that mean annually? What do we have to give every year so that we can give our way to curing world poverty? The number is staggering. It's $9.2 trillion a year. Now, for those of you who might be questioning my math, rest assured, I had my wife check it. She said it's right, and she's always right. But you know, the World Bank does report some major improvements. As of last year, some new numbers came out. Major improvement in the world of extreme poverty. Now listen to those words, extreme poverty. Then they report that, yes, there are some numbers on moderate poverty as well. They're still coming in. What is the difference? If I'm waking up not knowing where I'm getting a meal, that's about all I care about. So I didn't go to those numbers because, well, they weren't complete. But for a moment, let's assume I am off by 2x. Then we are actually twice as well off as we ever were. You know what? According to what $500 billion does on $9.2 trillion, it's 5.4%. Suddenly, $500 billion is not that impressive. And even if I'm half off, we're at 10%. We have a long march to address world poverty. So something's got to be said about our approach currently. Now, before I can talk about the approach and question it, I have another question, and that is, why is it that every time we talk about the poor, the ones in need, we talk about the bare minimum, food, shelter, water? The bare minimum to survive. Who in this room, please show me by a raise of hands, would like to have more in your life than food, shelter, and water? Please raise your hands. Some of you have not raised your hands. That is concerning. Why can't they also have more? If we can dream, why can't they? Why can't they dream? Maybe, just maybe, we don't need to solve their world problems. Maybe they can solve their own problems. Something to think about. See, I decided to go into one of our schools and do an exercise that was quite interesting. I walked into a room full of 5-year-old children, most of them running around screaming at the top of their heads in complete anarchy. I stood in front of them, and yes, I am wearing the exact same shirt. Apparently, I need a bigger wardrobe. That was not planned. It's a little embarrassing. So, the white piece of paper, let's all come back to the paper now. The white piece of paper. We handed it to them, and we gave them bright, beautiful, colorful markers, which they proceeded to hit each other over the head with, and then tried to organize them. And I looked at them, 5-year-old children, in their faces and said, I would like for you to draw your dream on this piece of paper. What proceeded after that was very interesting. Even the teachers looked at me like I had lost my mind. Somehow we pushed through it. And the results were absolutely astounding, were amazing. The first child came to me very confidently, handed me a piece of paper. On it was a beautiful drawing. I didn't quite recognize it. And I said, what is this? He looks at me very, very confidently, looks and says, I want to be a tiger when I grow up. Okay, so I asked for that. This wasn't going so well. I said, surely enough, the second kid, hey, come on up. What is this? It looks kind of like a sun. What is this? And he just stares at me. I said, what is this? His look gets a little bit more disgusted. Till this day, his silence has deafened me. I have no idea what I was looking at. No clue what it was. As far as I know, it was a picture of a sun. At this point, I'm starting to lose a lot of hope in this exercise. And that's when my eyes turn to Kunal, and I see over his shoulder what he had drawn, what looked like and what was a beautiful picture of an airplane. And below it, these words were not words I wrote. He wrote the words pilot. Now I had to take a minute. I stepped back and I said, surely this child has lost his mind. He can't possibly know what a pilot is. He's from a slum, he's 5 years old, he sees planes fly over his head. Of course, what he means is he wants to be in a plane. I had the audacity to correct him, and I said, no, no, no. You mean you want to be in a plane? And boy, did I ever get it back. He looked at me, stomped his foot, said, I want to be a pilot. I want to be a captain. Goosebumps went down my spine. I thought, wow. You know, while we sit here and try to figure out how he's going to eat and how he's going to drink and feel bad for him, that child has already figured out his exit from poverty. He knows how he's going to contribute to the world. Who knows how many of you 30 years from now may be flying in a plane flown by Captain Kunal. He's figured it out. All it took was him being asked by somebody. And even when I asked, even though I was the one who created the exercise, my first reaction was of shock and awe, of disbelief, and tried to correct him. You know, we have to remember something, that the human mind, rich, poor, black, white, ethnicity, color, language, doesn't matter. We're made of the same stuff. And we have unlimited potential. But sometimes we just need to be told. Sometimes we need a nudge. You know, sometimes we just need someone to give us that little nudge. And we can make amazing things happen. So, Jack Ma, he is the founder of Alibaba, was part of the 41.8%. Rest assured, he is not anymore. He is worth $28.5 billion. And he said it best. He said their whole life, he's talking about the poor, their whole life is about waiting. We've done this to this community. We've trained them to wait for the cavalry to come in and to give them things. Give them food, give them water, give them shelter, give, and they wait and they forget that they can go out and get. They forget that they can do the very things that we do. So it leads me to asking, why can't we challenge the convention? I dare you to say, you know what? It's not free. We're not going to give you for free anymore. No more free. We're not just going to give. What if there was a way that we could empower that community to take control of their own problems and solve their own problems? Sounds like a much more scalable system. And China, 1981 reported 88% of the population, 88% of the population was poor. That's a staggering number, 88%. And by 2012, they reported 6.5%. That was the fastest, most dramatic decrease in poverty ever seen, and far overshadowed any other country. Now, how did they do it? Did the Chinese government do a countrywide tour every single day, just handing out money to people? Here you go, here you go, here you go. I don't think so. See, they invested. They created infrastructure, factories. They empowered that 88% to take control of their own life, hence creating this. Is it coincidence? Or could it just be that by empowering the poor, we actually create more economic benefit than can be imagined? This was during the same time that China saw their biggest economic boom. Pretty amazing. So I ask you to stop thinking about giving the way we do. Start thinking about it as investing, just like you would with a private sector. If you gave money to a company, you expect a return. And that sometimes creates a very bad reaction inside someone's nonprofit return. No, we're not talking about lining our own pockets with the money. We're talking about empowering that nonprofit to grow faster, scale faster, and keep those profits. And empowering, that's the point. So we started our own system. We led and created 6 schools in Mumbai, India that work very differently in these communities that are slums. It takes us about $40,000 to set up each what we call dream centers. That's the name of our schools. But they're not just schools. And they're not free. Nope, nothing is free in this place. Even with a nominal contribution of the parents of $8 a month per student, we find that our facilities are completely break even at 18 months in and will never require an additional penny of investment. From there on out, that community will be able to run, manage, fuel that entire facility as they wish. We created our 4 laws of empowerment. It's these very laws that I believe will change the way we look at world poverty. And it's the exact 4 laws, the framework that we use when I decide if I'm going to donate my hard-earned money. First and foremost, community empowerment, community responsibility. See, we may not be in that community today, tomorrow, the next day. I don't want to be in a situation where the money I gave lasts for a certain period of time and then has no future for it. I want to know that what we did, the community will take over and then fuel it, run it, manage it, build it, scale it, so that 10 years from now, I could still see the effect, the return of that investment that we had made. Second, we look for what we call horizontal impact. So I'm greedy. It's not enough for me that all of our facilities can just take care of the 100 children per year. It's not. What else can these facilities do? Our facilities are used as medical clinics, dental clinics, as a source for entrepreneurship training for the community. And what we were able to do is, rather than just serve 100 children, now in the community, that same facility serves 600 people. So between the 6 schools, we're serving over 4,800 people. Horizontal impact. Self-sustainability. They have to be able to process and run themselves. We are not the ones who are going to run them. We're simply agents of support. That's our role. Last but not least, dare I say, return. Now, I'm not talking about return in our pockets. I mean it in the nonprofit sense. That money goes back into that institution. Our facilities are returning a profit, which is now being used to help build new facilities, new schools, hence adding scale to our organization. The more we scale, the more we can help, and the longer and the bigger runway that initial investment has. Empowerment, a gift that keeps on giving. I truly believe that it's these 4 laws of empowerment that allowed me to meet Kunal, that allowed me to learn more about Kunal, and that are going to have me at my phone 30 years from now, waiting for that phone call I will get from Kunal who says, I'm ready to pilot my first flight, and I will be the first person in line to get that ticket. But today, I ask you for one thing. The next time you're ready to donate your hard-earned money, take a step back, stop, and simply ask yourself this question. Am I giving or am I empowering?